Dil, thank you so much for joining me today. You're going to be speaking at this upcoming conference, and it's been a pleasure knowing you over the past few years in your work as a plant physiologist, but also your study of pulse crops. And with your work, tell us a little bit about what you're doing with regard to biofortification of some of the plants that we have right here on the table with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I have been working with lentil for almost 10 years right after my PhD. My PhD also about pulse crops, the physiology to study how we can increase the nitrogen fixation because pulse crops are nitrogen fixing legumes that provide...
Give us an idea of what do you mean by pulse crops? How about some of the crops?
Oh, right. The pulse crops are legumes because all the pulse crops are classified as legumes, but all the legumes are not pulse crops. Pulse is the word came from the old Latin meaning porridge or pulse. Its meaning is the porridge because 11,000 years ago people eat these pulses as a porridge. It was written in the Bible as well as in the different types of scripts from 8,500 years ago. So that's why it's called as pulses. So lentils, peas, chickpeas, and beans, they classified as the pulse crops. Most pulse crops are cool season because they required cool season, cool temperature, cool weather, rainfall to grow them. So
tell me, Dil, your interest in lentils, in these pulse crops, why?
Well, I am originally from Sri Lanka. Believe it or not, we grow up eating lentils 3 times a day. That is our staple food in Sri Lanka. So most people eat rice and lentils. So lentil is called as poor man's meat because that's the vegetarian protein. This wonderful crop has about 30%, that means there are 20 to 30 gram of protein in 100 gram of cooked lentils. So that's why it is called as a poor man meat. And all these people live in Southeast Asia. Their staple diet is pulses, lentils, chickpea, beans, things like that. But I grew up with lentils eating, and then I moved to Canada to do my higher education. And then without knowing, I become a pulse physiologist and studying on how to improve the nutrition quality of these things to feed the people back in my countries like Southeast Asia.
And you're mentioning lentils. Sadly, I have never seen a lentil plant before. I've seen the packaged lentils, and we're going to talk about those shortly. But I will tell you, as a horticulturist, lentil is a beautiful plant. And so Let's take a look at this pear.
Yes.
And I just love, and as a horticulturist, I look at the finely dissected foliage here.
Right.
It is beautiful, and it's all herbaceous.
Yes.
And then here you say, as a cool season crop,
right.
In fact, you spent your morning harvesting some kale.
We were harvesting some kale.
As well as lentils?
No, these are not ready yet to harvest, but these will be ready very soon. You can still see some of the flowers in there.
And also the pods themselves.
Yes, and which has 2 seeds in there.
And so I'm looking at this.
This.
In order to fill that bag.
Yes. Oh, that would be a lot of lentils.
Oh, my.
So roughly 1,500 kilograms per hectare. That's around the yield per hectare. This is a pretty good crop, but sadly, in South Carolina, we cannot grow this because, as I said, it requires the Mediterranean type of weather.
Okay.
So I don't know whether you know this, the most red lentil produced in the world is from Saskatchewan, Canada. That's where I went to school.
And gee whiz, and
90% of the red lentil produced in Canada, but now U.S. we are the 4th most producing country in the world. North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, and Idaho, Palouse, Washington State.
Oh my!
I used to work in North Dakota. They established a pulse quality program, nation's first quality program I established there before I moved to Clemson, because that's the country where we grow lentils.
So in the upper Midwest. So this is not something that a backyard gardener would even consider growing.
I don't think for South Carolina, but you can have other crops similar to lentils like beans and field peas, and you can have vegetable peas. Cowpea is one of the best one growing south.
Now, with regard to the lentil, this crop looks fine, but you feel that you could add a little bit more oomph to it in the sense that perhaps adding some other minerals that are
Right.
necessary for our diet.
Yes, so my research program is about the biofortification. What we do is we looked at the conventional plant breeding techniques to increase the iron, zinc, carotenoids, and selenium, folate, and beta carotene. So right now, these plants are actually grown. These are not the current varieties grown in the North Dakota, Montana, or anywhere in the U.S. These were lentil accessions came from USDA germplasm laboratory, and I am selecting for high selenium uptake lentil lines. So these were grown in the greenhouse. So these are a little different than the common cultivated lentils because these are accessions very close to the common varieties farmers grow, but little different because we were looking at the genomic side of the plant. So that's nutrition genomic. That's a new platform that we're going to establish in the Clemson University. So,
And I should have asked you this earlier, but your interest in pulse crops, in biofortification, my understanding of that term is that you're increasing levels of minerals, like you had said, with regard to the selenium.
right.
And so, what is the overarching drive that you have for vegetables? Because I've known you for quite some time, and you are so passionate about diet and people.
Yeah.
Please tell me about that.
So two things I work on is one is the micronutrient malnutrition. Other thing is the other side of the curve is the obesity. So about 200 million, maybe like the half of the world population is micronutrient malnutrition or like iron zinc deficient or carotenoid deficient. Mostly these people live in Southeast Asia or Africa. So there is a project funded by Gates Foundation, and they established this NGO or the platform called Harvest Plus. Their goal is to breed crops with iron, zinc, and carotenoids. And lentil were also part of their project, and which I work with the international agency in Morocco. It's called ICARDA. They are the ones actually working on a lot of this international research. So their idea is to release the varieties with high iron and zinc. So I work with the breeder in Morocco. We already released about 10 to 15 varieties. He did that. So most of the phenotyping work has been done in my lab. And similar aspect we do it with the U.S. breeders to increase the iron and zinc because we want to feed the South Asian people, because whatever we produce here in United States, we export it to Southeast Asia. That's our consumers. So we want to make the best product for our consumers. So the other side of the coin is the obesity. So about 30% of the American population is obese at the moment, and we expect the numbers going to be double in 2050. So how we can find a food-based solution to prevent the obesity. So one of my graduate students, who is a medical student at the moment in the Mayo Medical School, so we started a project looking at what is low digestible carbohydrate, what it does to the body, what are the food enriched with low digestible carbohydrate. So we found a kind of a gold mine. Lentil has about like 15 to 20 grams of low digestible carbohydrate, or also known as prebiotic carbohydrate, in 100 gram of lentil. So eating that provide the low digestible carbohydrate mean it releases the glucose very slowly, and it feeds the bacteria. It makes you lean and healthy and wealthy.
Outstanding. I love
That's what we do.
that. So we go from the plant and we saw the beautiful flattened pods that have the two seeds in them. And this is the product of these two
Right.
accessions that you have
Right.
here.
Right.
Look at these other colorful ones. And I'm just wondering, if my children were young, I think they would really get into these various colors.
Right. So
Clemson orange, my goodness.
I know. So these are the common market classes grown in USA, and these are the ones that we produce here in the USA, and then we export it to the different countries. Southeast Asia, especially the country where I was born in, Sri Lanka, is this one, Dihal red split. So if you see that, you can see the two different cotyledon. It is different from this. This one has like a football. It was not split. You can see the embryo. But
Correct.
here you can see the pieces of embryo.
Okay.
So this is the whole seed, okay, with the seed coat. Once it remove the seed coat, it's called as the football. And then once you split it, it's a split red lentil. This is the kind that Sri Lankans like to eat.
Beautiful.
And this is the kind the Bangladeshi and most Indians like to eat. And this is everywhere people like to put it. I know Americans like this. This is what we put in our lentil soup.
Dil, I realize this is not the Food Network.
I know.
But we need to talk about this in the preparation, just briefly. I've had lentil burgers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've had lentil soup.
Right.
It's really delicious.
Yes.
How do you prepare yours?
Mine. Do you want to see it?
I am thankful that you're going to open up that Tupperware container.
You want to smell it?
Oh my gosh. I smell some curry
that
in there.
exactly that is so that is this football red lentils. So what I did, it took me only 10 minutes to prepare it. I had some water, garlic, onion, cinnamon, and a little bit of ginger, and then cook with the curry powder and chili pepper.
May I?
Yes, you try.
So I'm wondering, this is my bowl and that's your bowl.
No, I
Have at it.
and I had
Oh
some
my
spinach. You
goodness.
should try it. It take only 10 minutes to cook for it, and then you can eat that with rice, or you can eat
my.
that with.
Oh, that is outstanding. Now, there are about 5 other people out behind those cameras, and we're going to have to arm wrestle for this bowl. This is really delicious.
So people,
It's got a little bit of heat, too.
Yeah, because it's I add a little bit of chili pepper into it because I know that you like chili. So if you
Outstanding.
eat that with the rice or hummus, this is how people eat it. Like in Sri Lanka, I eat that with the rice. That's my main meal.
That's wonderful. Oh, my. And I love that little bit of heat in the back.
I
Golly.
need some water.
Wow, we need Guy Ferretti over here. No, we don't. We're good without him. Let's take a look now at another crop.
Okay,
This is our kale.
this is actually
And you just harvested it this morning?
my graduate students
Look
actually.
how beautiful.
So what we're doing here, this is 6 different varieties of kale. We are looking for the highest dietary fiber varieties. So if you go to the market, you usually see which one? You tell me, Bob.
What I sometimes will see on a restaurant, this will be a garnish.
Okay.
I've been growing this one. I call it Dinosaur Kale. I've been
Right.
growing it as an ornamental, but I've been harvesting it
Right.
and eating it as well. I don't do much of the shopping in my house.
So-
but I'm guessing, would it be this one?
That is red Russian, but you don't see that in the market very much.
The curly.
Yes, you see this one. So we were having like about 20 range from 10 to 25 different varieties we collected all over the United States, and then we wanted to look at how much dietary fiber in it, because the obesity is a major problem in the US. So if we can provide a diet rich in dietary fiber, like I said before, the prebiotic carbohydrate, or mix with lentil and kale, provide a whole food. So that's why I wanted to study what would be the match with the lentils to enhance the nutrition quality. Because if you think about America, people might not like to eat only lentils. They might like to have a salad in the side. So kale would be the best crop for that. It's already known as the superfood. but there is not very limited nutrition quality data. We just published a paper on 25 different varieties, and we looked at the mineral composition and the dietary fiber. Dietary fiber means not just dietary fiber, range of dietary fiber, sugar, alcohol, raffinose, oligosaccharide, and the other prebiotic carbohydrate components and the lignin, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we found was this crop can provide at least 2 to 5 gram of protein in 100 gram. You never thought about that. And it is low energy, and which is a high dense calcium, magnesium, and potassium. It also okay source of iron and zinc. Not an excellent source, but it has certain amount of iron, and it's a good source of iron and zinc, but excellent source of calcium, magnesium, and potassium, and the dietary fiber. So because I wanted to complement my lentil research program, so I kind of mixed these two together, and we are looking for genetic sites and trying to screen for high lines or release. Maybe near future I should be able to have varieties rich in all these nutrients.
That's just wonderful. And again, as I commented on the lentils, when I look at this, all of these plants are landscape worthy.
Yeah, right.
I can't help but say that.
Yeah.
And I've grown. I mean, I just love that. The term is rugose, that beautiful wrinkled leaf to it.
These are two different types of varieties. You never thought that, right?
Oh, my.
These are two different types of
and
varieties.
it had been described to me as almost looks like the back of an alligator or a crocodile.
Right. These are called dinosaur.
Dinosaur Kale.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And even these are two different varieties.
And so this is the time that I really feel it's important for people viewing this broadcast is to be aware that you don't have to have a vegetable garden in the back 40 somewhere to
Right.
cultivate these.
No.
Grow them in containers.
Right.
Mix them up with ornamental plants in the foundation planting. I think we need to let our neighbors know that we could mix vegetables or edibles with our ornamental plants.
Right. Exactly. And also, if you have a raised bed, you can have different types of kale. Also, don't forget your legumes, because legumes, as I said before, it fixes the nitrogen. So that is...
And explain that.
Exactly.
Please.
Legumes take up nitrogen from the air, and it has these little nodules in the root, which has a rhizobium. It's a bacteria. So bacteria take that nitrogen and convert into ammonia. That ammonia used by the plant. So we don't need to add fertilizer into the plant. Plant just make its own nitrogen. So
Isn't that's very sweet.
Exactly.
And you explained it perfectly. Even though you used a 3-syllable word, rhizobium, that's fine. I'm glad you mentioned that.
But it benefit the
Now,
vegetables.
with the kale, I have to tell you how I don't prepare this. I don't cook. The way my wife prepares this as a dietitian and diabetes educator, she bakes it with virgin olive oil.
Right.
And it is so delectable with a little bit of salt on there. It is amazing.
Right.
How do you prepare it?
That's the one way. That's the kale chips.
Okay.
I just wash it and chop it and add some Clemson blue cheese. And a little bit of nuts, because it provides the omega-3 and all the essential fatty acids, and then add some lemon juice and olive oil. I just eat it with blueberry or anything I want.
Excellent.
You can mix this with anything you want.
Well, I have been speaking to Dr. Dil Thavarajah. She works with pulse crops at Clemson University, and she is interested in biofortification of vegetables, not only the two we just discussed here, but several others. And also I've been enjoying the programs that she has instituted in a number of our schools, engaging students in growing vegetables. But that is a matter for another day. I do want to thank you so much for joining me and for sharing your research as well as your expertise with us today.
Thank you very much.